Okay, back at the desk, and today we're talking about hydration reservoirs. This is tip number 32, and I'm actually going to give you a couple or three tips along with this. This is an Osprey hydration reservoir. I don't really have a whole lot of brand loyalty to reservoirs. I like reservoirs that have the slide on top as opposed to a screw top. I find the screw tops hard to deal with. I find this much easier to get your hand inside the reservoir if you have to clean it. And this is a tip so that you don't have to clean it, but I still prefer those. So I like the Ospreys. I like the Platypus Big Zips. I think they're all great reservoirs. Recently, I've learned that the quick releases from all the brands now interconnect, and that includes the quick releases that come with Sawyer water filters. So I really appreciate that. That's a super cool thing. You can build all sorts of systems with those quick releases, and they interconnect between all the different companies now. I mean, I haven't tried all the companies, but for the most part. Okay, so this is the first part of tip number 32. If you listen carefully, hear that water sloshing around? That will absolutely drive you crazy while you're backpacking. One of the nice things about a reservoir is that it sits right behind your back, close to your center of gravity. Water is heavy, about 8 pounds a gallon, so this 3-liter reservoir is about 6 pounds, and that's a lot of weight, and you want it close to your center of gravity. But that also means if it's making noise, you're going to hear it while you're hiking, and it's going to drive you nutty. So what you need to do is burp your reservoir, and here's how we do that. Assuming you've got a bite valve already connected, we're going to lift the end of it up so that the air is up on this end, and then we're just going to suck the air out. No air, no sound. Not a thing, no sound. So that's the first tip, or the first part of tip number 32. This one little air bubble is still in there. Tip number 2 is how to keep your reservoir clean. And here's what we're going to do is at the end of your hike, empty your reservoir, including the hose, and leave maybe just a little bit of water in the bottom. I don't leave anything. And then put it in your freezer, either flat on a shelf or hanging. And what water is in here will freeze, but if it's frozen, you won't get any bacterial growth. And then when you're going to go on a hike, pull it out of the freezer, open the top, and fill it up. And if there is a little bit of water in there, it'll be a big ice cube, and it'll chill your water, and it'll melt by the time you get to wherever it is you're going. You'll have nice cold water for your hike. So freeze it to prevent it from getting moldy and gross. Another good tip for that is don't ever put anything in your reservoir except for water. Even hydration tablets and stuff like that. I'm a big fan of Noon. They have sugar in them, and that sugar is food for microbes. So I work really hard to keep reservoirs clean and not put anything in them. That said, because I'm freezing them, I don't own brushes. I don't struggle to get them dry. For years, they said store them dry. You can't ever get them dry, particularly the hose. You'll never really get it dry. So that's tip 2. Freeze it to keep it clean. And it's got to be flat, which can be hanging or flat on a shelf. If it's got a wrinkle in it and there's water, when that water freezes and expands, it'll tear the reservoir. So that's the second part of tip number 32. Okay, the third part of tip number 32. You'll notice that this is a 3-liter reservoir. Always buy a 3-liter reservoir. Some companies make 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, or 1, 2, and 3. The price difference between a 2-liter reservoir and a 3-liter reservoir is a couple of bucks, $3 or $4. And if down the road you realize you're doing a trip where you need to carry more water, you don't have to go out and spend another 40 bucks on another bigger reservoir. And if you've got a 3-liter, you don't have to fill it. So it doesn't have to be full when you use it. You can still burp the air out of it, even if it's only halfway full. And so always buy the biggest reservoir you can. In the long run, it'll end up saving you money. Even using these tips every 2 or 3 years, I'll at least replace the hose, which is really what gets dirtiest, if not replacing the whole reservoir. 2 or 3 or 4 years. I use my reservoir a lot because I use it when I'm teaching. Okay, That's tip number 32 with 2 extra little side tips for you. Have a great day. If this was good for you, like, subscribe. I'll see you outside.